Imagine this: a struggling waitress, barely making ends meet, working double shifts just to provide for her little one. Her life seems like an endless cycle of exhaustion and uncertainty. But one fateful day, everything changes when she stumbles upon a lost lottery ticket on the floor. It's a moment that could change the course of her life forever. She looks down at the ticket in her hand, not sure if she's dreaming or if luck is finally on her side. But here's the catch: she has no idea if it's even a winner. This is the story of Maria, a single mom juggling her job at a small diner, caring for her young son, and trying to make it through each day with a smile. For months, Maria had been struggling. The bills piled up, and her dreams of a better life seemed like they were just that, dreams. She'd sit up late at night, looking at the empty chair across the kitchen table where her husband should have been, and wonder if she'd ever catch a break. But fate, as it often does, had something incredible in store. It was just another shift at the diner when she found the ticket, tucked under a napkin, discarded on the floor near the front counter. At first, she thought it was just some crumpled receipt, but then her eyes locked on the faint numbers printed on the paper, and her heart skipped a beat. It looked like a lottery ticket. She had no idea what to do with it. Should she just ignore it, hand it over to her manager? Or maybe, just maybe, could it be her chance to break free from the constant grind of low wages and long hours? Maria's mind raced with possibilities, but the reality of her situation quickly set in. She couldn't afford to think too much about something so unlikely, especially with a son to raise. After all, who finds a winning lottery ticket, right? But something about this moment felt different. As she stood there, staring at that ticket, Maria realized that this small piece of paper could hold the key to everything she'd been working toward. The question was, what would she do with it? With a mixture of skepticism and hope, Maria made a decision. She kept the ticket. Now you might be thinking, what's the big deal? A lottery ticket, lost and forgotten by someone else, probably wasn't worth much. But this wasn't just any ordinary ticket. This was the start of an incredible twist of fate that would rewrite Maria's story in ways she couldn't even begin to imagine. Later that evening, as the clock ticked away, Maria sat at home, holding the ticket in her hand, staring at the numbers, her mind running through every possible scenario. The doubt crept in. What if she was wrong? What if this wasn't her chance? Could she really risk everything on a simple piece of paper? But then she remembered her son's face, his big brown eyes full of hope, and the promise she made to him to do whatever it took to give him a better life. That's when she decided she would check it. But checking the ticket wasn't as simple as it seemed. Maria, still unsure of how to even begin the process, had to navigate through a series of steps. She had heard people talk about winning tickets being validated at the lottery office, and the thought of it made her stomach churn. What if she made a mistake? What if it was all a fantasy? At the same time, she felt the weight of her decision pressing down on her. This could either be the moment she'd been waiting for, or another letdown in a life filled with disappointments. She held on to the ticket for dear life, not knowing that this single act of holding on would set off a chain of events that would change everything. As she prepared to check the numbers, Maria felt an overwhelming mix of fear and excitement. Could she really be on the verge of something so big, so life-changing? What if the numbers matched? Could this ticket be the ticket to her future? Or was it just another daydream? The uncertainty of it all hung in the air as Maria took a deeper breath, ready to face whatever came next. Little did she know that one small step, that one decision, was about to unlock a door she never even knew existed. And now, as you're sitting here wondering what happened next, I'll leave you with this. Was this the moment that changed her life forever? Or was Maria simply chasing after a fleeting dream? Stay tuned to find out how one lost lottery ticket could be the catalyst for a destiny rewritten. Maria stared at the lottery ticket for what felt like hours, her heart pounding as she tried to calm the storm of thoughts swirling in her head. She'd never won anything in her life, nothing that truly mattered anyway. A few consolation prizes here and there, a free coffee or a t-shirt for entering a contest, but never something big. This ticket, though, it could change everything. But would it? Her son, Tommy, was fast asleep in his room, unaware of the turmoil his mum was experiencing. He was only 6, but Maria knew he could sense her stress. She hated that he had to see her struggle, hated how many times she'd told him, "We'll make it through, sweetie," only to feel like she was barely holding on. Raising him alone was harder than she'd ever imagined. After her divorce, things had only gotten more difficult. Her ex-husband had never been much of a provider, and when he left everything behind. His responsibility, his support, his promises. Maria had been forced to pick up the pieces, working long hours at the diner, scrubbing plates, and serving customers who rarely appreciated her efforts. But she did it all for Tommy. Every moment of exhaustion, every sleepless night, every lonely minute she spent wishing things were different. He was the only thing that kept her going. Now, as she held the ticket, she thought about all those nights when she'd wondered if it would ever get better. The bills were overdue. The rent was overdue. There had even been moments when she had to decide between buying food for the week or paying for Tommy's school supplies. Maria had learned to make sacrifices, but deep down, she knew something had to give. She couldn't keep going like this forever. The thought of winning, of having the freedom to provide a better life for her son, felt almost impossible. She had worked so hard, and yet, everything always felt out of reach. If this lottery ticket was her one chance to change that, she couldn't let it slip away. But even as hope began to rise in her chest, the doubt lingered. What if the ticket wasn't a winner? What if it was just another cruel reminder of how close she was to something better, only to have it snatched away? Maria had heard stories, people who found lost tickets, only to realize they'd missed their chance. Stories of winners who hesitated, who waited too long and lost everything. But she couldn't let fear control her. She had to know. She had to try. The next morning, after a restless night spent tossing and turning, Maria finally made up her mind. She was going to take the ticket to the local lottery office. She had no idea what to expect, but she couldn't just sit around hoping for a miracle. She needed to see the numbers for herself. As she got ready for the day, the anxiety that had built up over the past few hours only grew. Her stomach twisted in knots as she threw on her worn-out jacket and grabbed her purse. She kissed Tommy on the forehead, telling him she'd be back soon, and left the house, trying to keep her emotions in check. The lottery office wasn't far, just a small storefront in the middle of the city. Maria had driven by it dozens of times, but had never actually gone inside. Now, as she parked the car and stared up at the faded sign above the door, her nerves were on edge. Her hands were shaking as she clutched the ticket, wondering if she was about to make the biggest mistake of her life. Inside, the air smelled faintly of stale coffee and old paper. A few people stood in line, waiting to check their tickets, their faces drawn and tired. No one seemed excited. No one seemed hopeful. Everyone was just waiting, just like her. She took a deep breath and approached the counter. The clerk, a middle-aged man with glasses and a tired smile, looked up at her. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice neutral. Maria handed him the ticket, her heart pounding in her chest. "Can you check this for me?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. The clerk glanced at the ticket and then at her, his face unreadable. He took it and scanned it into the machine. For a few seconds, there was silence. Then the machine beeped, and the clerk's eyes flicked back up to Maria. "I need to get the manager," he said, his voice suddenly more serious. Maria's blood ran cold. A pit formed in her stomach. Had she made a mistake? Was the ticket fake? Was there some kind of error? Her mind raced. But before she could even process the thought, the clerk walked away. A few minutes passed, and Maria could feel her palms growing sweaty. She didn't know whether to sit down, to leave, or to demand answers. Every scenario in her head felt worse than the last. Finally, the manager arrived. A tall, thin woman with sharp features and a no-nonsense attitude. She took one look at the ticket and then glanced up at Maria. "You're going to want to come with me," she said, her tone all business. Maria's heart skipped a beat. What was happening? Was this some kind of scam? The manager led her to a small back office, where she asked Maria to sit. Then, without saying a word, she ran the ticket through a more advanced system. Maria's mind raced. What was going on? What was happening? Why couldn't anyone just tell her if she'd won or not? Finally, the manager turned around, her face a mix of disbelief and something else that Maria couldn't quite place. "Congratulations," the manager said slowly, her voice almost a whisper. "You've won." But the words that followed would change everything, revealing a shocking twist that Maria never saw coming. Maria's heart raced as the manager's words sunk in. "You've won." It felt surreal, like the world around her had suddenly slowed down, and she was trapped in this moment of disbelief. But the manager's face told a different story. A mix of confusion, caution, and something else Maria couldn't quite place. The manager cleared her throat, as if trying to find the right words. "I'm afraid there's a complication." Maria's stomach dropped. What did that mean? A complication? Was the ticket a scam after all? Was it just another false hope? The manager hesitated before continuing. "This ticket is a part of a special lottery promotion. There's a catch. You see, the person who lost it, they didn't claim the prize in time. There's a legal issue with unclaimed lottery winnings, and the ticket was supposed to be invalid." Maria's head was spinning. "So, it's not a winner?" she asked, her voice trembling. The manager gave a soft, regretful shake of her head. "Not exactly. The person who purchased this ticket has until the end of today to come forward. Otherwise, the prize will be forfeited. But here's where it gets tricky. If they don't claim it, legally, it could go to you." Maria felt like her world was flipping upside down. How was that even possible? The idea that she could win, actually win, felt like something from a dream. But now, she was caught in a legal maze. She couldn't even believe what she was hearing. "What do I need to do?" Maria asked, her voice barely a whisper. She was fighting to keep her composure. The manager paused for a moment, as if weighing her next words carefully. "We can't give you the full amount until the person fails to claim the prize. But if you're willing, you can take the risk and wait for a few hours. You'd need to be patient." Maria nodded slowly. She had no choice but to wait, if there was even a slim chance she could secure the prize. She couldn't walk away now. She wasn't just doing this for herself. She was doing it for Tommy. She had already been living on the edge for so long, and now there was a glimmer of light shining through. This could change everything. She spent the next few hours pacing, waiting, hoping. The minutes felt like hours, and with each passing moment, the tension grew. Could the person who bought the ticket show up in time? Would they claim the prize and take away the chance Maria had been hoping for? She thought about all the times she'd struggled, about all the sacrifices she'd made. She thought about Tommy and the promise she'd made to him to build a better life. Finally, the call came. It was the manager, her voice flat but certain. The other party didn't show up. "You're the winner, Maria. The prize is yours." Maria froze. She felt a wave of emotion wash over her, and for a moment, she couldn't breathe. It was happening. This was real. The relief, the joy, the disbelief. It was too much to process. She had won. The money, the freedom, the chance to change, everything. It was all finally within her grasp. But there was still more. The manager handed her the paperwork, and as Maria took it, she saw the grand total, 5 million. Tears filled her eyes as she realized that this money would change not only her life, but also Tommy's future. The weight of everything she'd fought for was about to be lifted. She didn't have to work long hours anymore. She didn't have to choose between food and school supplies. She could finally breathe. As she walked out of the lottery office, the world seemed different. The streets looked brighter, and for the first time in years, Maria could imagine a future where she wasn't constantly worrying about the next bill. She could dream again. Back at home, she sat down on the couch, her hands trembling as she told Tommy the news. His eyes grew wide with excitement when she explained everything. They both hugged, overwhelmed with joy. It was a moment neither of them would ever forget. Maria knew that winning the lottery didn't solve everything. She still had challenges ahead. But this was the turning point she had been waiting for. The opportunity to finally create the life she had always dreamed of. She had fought for this moment, and now it was here. The story of how a single mom, working tirelessly to give her son a better life, found a lost lottery ticket and turned it into her destiny, is a testament to the power of hope, perseverance, and believing that anything is possible. Maria's journey may have been filled with uncertainty and struggle, but it was also a reminder that sometimes, just when you least expect it, life can surprise you in the most incredible way. For Maria and Tommy, the future looked brighter than ever, and they knew that with a little faith, hard work, and the courage to take risks, anything could happen. The greatest prizes aren't always the ones you expect. They're the ones you create for yourself, against all odds.